Heaven is astonished by you, not impressed in the casual, passing way that one human being is briefly impressed by another, not pleased in the general sense that a creator is pleased by something it made, astonished, stopped, arrested by what it sees when it looks at your life, genuinely, deeply, in a way that reverberates through the entire spiritual realm, astonished. And Archangel Michael has been sent today to tell you why. Because you need to know, not as flattery, not as spiritual encouragement designed to make you feel good for a moment before the feeling fades. You need to know because the truth of what heaven sees when it looks at you is the truth you have been making the most important decisions of your life without. The truth about who you are and what you carry and what makes you singular among all the souls that heaven tends to. The truth that changes everything when it finally lands in the place inside you where truth actually lives. So receive this, every word, because Michael does not come with this kind of message casually. When the commander of heaven's armies steps forward to speak about astonishment, it means something extraordinary has been observed. Something that warranted not just acknowledgement, but declaration. Not just a private recognition, but a message delivered urgently and specifically to the soul being spoken about. That soul is you, and what heaven has observed in you is unlike anything it watches in most human lives. There is a quality in you, a combination of things that exist together in the way they exist together in you, that heaven has been watching with a kind of attention reserved for the extraordinary. Not the extraordinary by human standards, the extraordinary by heaven's standards, which means something entirely different, something that has nothing to do with fame or talent or achievement or the metrics the world uses to decide who matters. Something deeper, something rarer, something that Michael is about to explain. So be still and listen, because what is said here today is meant to reach the part of you that has been most starved for truth, the part of you that has been living on scraps of self-belief, while heaven has been holding a feast of truth about you that was waiting to be delivered. Today is the delivery. Michael wants to start at the beginning, not the beginning of your life, the beginning of you, before you were born, before your parents chose your name, before your body was formed, before any of the circumstances that shaped your human experience came into existence. The beginning that exists in the realm where souls are known before they are sent, where callings are written before they are lived, where heaven looks at what needs to be done in a specific generation and chooses the specific souls equipped and appointed to do it. That beginning matters for what Michael is about to say, because the astonishment heaven feels when it looks at you today is connected directly to what heaven knew about you in that beginning. What was written about you, what was placed inside you, what was intended when your soul was sent into this world at this specific time in history. You were not sent randomly. No soul is. But some souls are sent with a weight of purpose that is heavier than others. Some callings are broader, deeper, more far-reaching in their intended impact. Some lives are designed to intersect with and alter the trajectories of many other lives. Some souls are sent as carriers of something that their generation urgently needs, and that only they can carry in the precise way it needs to be carried. You are one of those souls. The weight of what heaven placed inside you before you were born is not ordinary weight. It was never ordinary. From the very first moment of your existence, from the beginning that predates your birth, you were carrying something that heaven invested in you specifically because of what it knew you would be willing to do with it, what it knew you would survive, what it knew you would ultimately choose even when every other choice seemed easier and more comfortable and less costly. Heaven knew what you would choose, and heaven chose you because of it. That is the foundation of the astonishment. But it is only the beginning. Michael wants to speak about something heaven rarely witnesses, something that exists in you in a measure that has genuinely arrested the attention of the spiritual realm, something that the enemy has worked hardest to destroy in you, precisely because its presence in a human life is so powerful and so dangerous to darkness and so essential to the fulfillment of divine purpose. It is the combination of deep sensitivity and unbreakable resilience living together in the same soul. Most people have one or the other. The sensitive souls feel deeply, but are often broken by what they feel. The resilient souls survive everything, but do so sometimes at the cost of their tenderness, their capacity for genuine connection, their ability to be moved by the things that deserve to move them. The world tends to teach people that sensitivity and resilience are opposites. that you have to choose between being soft enough to feel and hard enough to survive, that the price of one is the sacrifice of the other. But in you, heaven placed both, fully, together, without compromise of either. You feel things at a depth that most people never access. The pain of others lands on you in ways that are real and not performed. The beauty of ordinary moments reaches you in places that are closed off, in people who have learned to protect themselves from feeling too much. The spiritual dimension of life is not abstract to you. It is tangible, alive, something you move through and that moves through you. You were made to feel deeply because the assignment heaven gave you requires a depth of feeling that shallow souls could never sustain. And you have survived things that should have destroyed that sensitivity. Things that, by every natural measure, should have taught you to stop feeling so much, to put up walls, to learn the art of not caring too deeply as a form of self-preservation, the losses that came for your tenderness, the betrayals that came for your trust, the disappointments that came for your hope, the seasons of feeling deeply and receiving very little in return that should have taught you that deep feeling is a liability, but you still feel. After everything, you are still tender in the places that life tried hardest to harden. You are still open in the places that experience tried hardest to close. You are still capable of genuine hope after every disappointment that tried to make hope feel foolish. You are still willing to love after every experience of love costing more than it returned. That is what astonishes heaven. Not your achievements, not your gifts, not the external things you have built or accumulated or accomplished. The fact that you survived everything that came for the most sacred parts of who you are, and those parts are still intact, still present, still functioning, still available to the people and the purpose and the God that you were made for. Heaven has watched the enemy try to destroy that in you, again and again, with increasing intensity and creativity as each attempt failed. And heaven has watched you hold it, season after season, loss after loss, battle after battle. The tenderness that was the target survived. The sensitivity that was meant to be a casualty is still alive. That is rare. That is extraordinary. That is the kind of thing that stops heaven in its observation of a human life and says, this one. Look at this one. Watch what this one does. Watch what comes through this one when the time is right. The time is right. Michael wants to address the loneliness because it is real and it is significant, and heaven does not want to speak about your extraordinary nature without also speaking into the cost of it, because there is a cost. There has always been a cost, and you have paid it quietly, mostly without complaint, mostly without anyone around you fully understanding what they were watching you pay. The loneliness of being a soul that feels at the depth you feel in a world that mostly operates on the surface. The loneliness of seeing things that other people miss and knowing things that other people dismiss and caring about things that other people cannot access. The loneliness of carrying a calling that is visible to heaven and to you, but that has sometimes been invisible or incomprehensible to the people closest to you. The loneliness of being wired differently, of needing things that the people around you did not know how to give, of offering things that the people around you did not know how to receive. The loneliness of being singular, because that is what you are. Singular. There is not another soul walking the earth with your specific combination, your specific gifts and wounds and sensitivities and strengths and calling and history. You are one of a kind in the most literal sense, and one of a kind means there is no one else who sees the world exactly the way you see it. No one else who processes experience exactly the way you process it. No one else who carries what you carry in the way that you carry it. That singularity is the source of your astonishing quality, but it is also the source of your loneliness. Because singular means sometimes profoundly alone in the specific experience of being you. Heaven sees that loneliness. Michael sees it. And Michael wants to say something about it that you may not have heard before. Your loneliness is not a mistake. It is not a flaw in the design. It is not evidence that something went wrong in your story. The specific loneliness of the singular soul is part of the formation, part of what drives the chosen toward the only relationship that can fully satisfy the deepest places. The relationship with God, the connection with heaven, the intimacy with the divine that becomes available to souls who have exhausted the capacity of human relationship to meet their deepest needs and turn toward the only source that actually can. The loneliness drove you deeper into God. The places where human connection could not reach you, God reached. The needs that no human relationship could fully meet, God met. The parts of you that no person in your life could fully see, God saw. And through that process, through the sacred ache of the loneliness, something was built in you that would not have been built any other way. A depth of relationship with the divine, a capacity for communion with heaven, a sensitivity to the spiritual that is now one of your most powerful gifts. The loneliness was not wasted, it was productive, and it is ending. Because the divine connections that your soul has been made for, the ones that will not leave you feeling more lonely for having been in them, the ones that match the depth of who you are, the ones that see and value and respond to the singular thing that you carry, those connections are coming. They are being arranged. They are being moved into position. And when they arrive, when you experience for the first time what it feels like to be truly seen and truly met by people who carry something compatible with what you carry, the loneliness that has been your companion will finally have served its full purpose. And you will understand why it was necessary. Heaven wants to speak to the specific things you carry that make you stand alone among others. Michael has been given a specific revelation about your life to deliver today, and this is the heart of it. The things that heaven sees in you that are singular, that distinguish you, that make the spiritual realm pay attention when it looks at your life. The first thing is your capacity for forgiveness, not theoretical forgiveness, the real kind, the kind that costs something, the kind that does not come easily or quickly or without a fight inside yourself. You have forgiven things that most people would have held on to for a lifetime. You have released offenses that would have justified bitterness in anyone who observed them from the outside. You have chosen mercy in moments when vengeance would have felt completely reasonable and very few people would have blamed you for it. Not once, repeatedly, as a pattern, as a practice, as something that lives in you as a quality of character rather than an occasional act of extraordinary willpower. That capacity is rare, genuinely rare. Heaven sees forgiveness as one of the most powerful forces in the spiritual realm. Every act of genuine forgiveness by a human soul releases something in the heavenly realm that shifts things, that breaks chains, that opens doors, that disarms the enemy of strategies he has invested heavily in. And your consistent, costly, genuine practice of forgiveness has been releasing things in the spiritual realm around your life for years, building a momentum of grace, opening a path of favor, creating a history in the heavenly realm of a soul that reflects the nature of God in one of the most profound ways available to a human being. That history is being honored now. The forgiveness you poured out is coming back as blessing, as favor, as the softening of hearts that needed to be softened towards you, as the opening of doors that could only be opened by the kind of grace that forgiveness generates. The second thing is your persistence in prayer, the secret history of your prayer life, the conversations with God that happened in the dark when no one was watching, the prayers prayed with tears and without words, the groaning toward heaven in moments where the need was too deep for articulate language, the showing up again and again in the place of prayer even when prayer felt like speaking into silence, even when the answers were not coming in visible ways, even when the silence of heaven felt like the loneliest possible kind of silence. You kept praying. That is extraordinary. The souls who keep praying when prayer feels unanswered, who maintain the posture of connection with God through the silences and the delays and the seasons where faith required more than they felt they had, those souls are building something in the spiritual realm that is impossible to build any other way. A depth of relationship with God, a prayer history that heaven honors, a record of faithfulness in the secret place that God rewards openly. The reward for your secret prayer history is being released now. The things you prayed for in the dark are being answered in the light. The faithfulness you demonstrated in the hidden place is being rewarded in the visible one. Every prayer that felt like it went nowhere went everywhere. Every word you spoke toward heaven in the seasons of silence was heard, recorded, and is being answered now. The third thing is your willingness to carry pain without letting it define you. The things you have been through that you did not allow to become your identity. The wounds you sustained that you chose to heal from rather than wear as a permanent marker of who you are. The tragedies in your story that could have become the whole of your story, but that you refused to let swallow everything else. The grief you walked through without letting the grief turn into bitterness. The loss you survived without letting the loss turn into an armor that protected you from ever being vulnerable again. That choice, that repeated ongoing choice to be a person who carries pain without becoming pain, is one of the rarest things heaven witnesses in a human life. Most people, when they experience enough, when the accumulation of hard things reaches a certain weight, either break under it or calcify around it. You did neither. You bent, but did not break. You were marked by the pain, but not consumed by it. You carried it and kept walking and kept loving and kept believing and kept showing up. Heaven calls that extraordinary. Michael calls that worthy of astonishment. And the God who watched you make that choice over and over again is honoring it in this season with a pouring out of healing and restoration and joy that is proportional to everything you chose not to become in the hard seasons. Michael wants to speak about what heaven has been building while you were going through everything you have been through, because nothing in the divine economy is ever just happening to a chosen soul. Everything is happening for a chosen soul. And the distinction between those two prepositions is the difference between a life that feels like a series of things done to a passive person and a life that is understood as a divine construction project of extraordinary intentionality. You are a divine construction project. And what heaven has been building in you through every season is more impressive than any external structure it could have built for you. Heaven has been building wisdom, not information, not head knowledge, not the kind of learning that comes from books or education or observation from a distance. The deep, hard-earned can only come from living it wisdom that is forged in the intersection of real experience and genuine reflection and sustained relationship with God. The wisdom that knows things about human nature because you have lived enough human experience to understand it without judgment. The wisdom that can read a situation because you have been in enough situations to recognize what is actually happening beneath the surface. The wisdom that can speak to pain because you have genuinely been in pain and have genuinely found the way through. That wisdom is one of the most valuable things a human being can carry. And it is being released into active use in this next season of your life. The things you learned in the hard places are about to become the very things that help people who are in those same hard places. The wisdom that was built at personal cost is about to be offered as a gift. And the impact of wisdom offered from genuine experience rather than theoretical knowledge is something that changes people, that reaches them in places where polished words cannot. You are about to be used as a vessel of wisdom that will change lives. Heaven has been building authority. Not the kind of authority that comes from a title or a position or an external appointment, the kind that comes from proven character, from tested faith, from the track record of a soul that faced real opposition and did not fold, the kind of authority that the people who need what you carry will recognize immediately, even if they cannot articulate why. The quiet, settled, unperformable authority that comes from actually knowing the God you speak about. From having actually been in the fire and having actually been sustained through it, from carrying a reality rather than a concept. That authority is being activated in you now. And when you walk into rooms, when you speak into lives, when you open your mouth and offer what heaven has built in you, the authority behind it is going to be unmistakable. Not because you will be loud or forceful or demanding of recognition, but because truth spoken from genuine authority carries a weight that reaches past people's defenses, that bypasses the skepticism, that lands in the heart because it comes from a heart and not just a head. Heaven has been building compassion, specifically the kind that is made more powerful by personal suffering, the compassion that does not observe pain from a comfortable distance and offer sympathy, but that sits inside the pain with someone and offers presence. The compassion that does not rush to fix or advise or resolve, but that first simply witnesses. That says, I see you. I know this is real. I am not afraid of the depth of what you are carrying. The compassion that loves people in their most unlovable moments because it has experienced being loved in its own most unlovable moments. That compassion is one of heaven's most powerful instruments in a human life, and in you it has been developed to a depth that most people never reach. The people you are about to reach, the ones heaven is positioning you to impact, need exactly this, not a solution. A presence, not an answer. A witness, not someone who has never suffered. Someone who has suffered deeply and come through with their capacity to love not just intact, but expanded. You are that person. Heaven built you to be that person, and the deployment of what was built is happening now. Michael wants to speak to the dreams that almost died, the ones that came closest to being buried permanently, the ones that had the longest and most sustained campaign against them, the ones that the enemy invested the most in destroying because he knew what their fulfillment would mean. Because the dreams that the enemy works hardest to kill are always the ones that are most dangerous to his kingdom, the ones whose fulfillment would produce the most light, the most impact, the most freedom in the lives of the people they are meant to reach. The enemy knew which dreams those were in your life. He targeted them specifically, with patience and strategy and repeated assault over seasons long enough to create genuine discouragement, long enough to make the dreams start to feel naive, long enough to make the believing start to feel embarrassing, long enough that you started protecting yourself from the full pain of the dream not yet being real by quietly lowering your expectations of it, by no longer holding it fully in your mind and heart because holding it fully hurt too much. Michael knows which dream that is for you, the specific one. And Michael is speaking directly into that dream today with the authority of heaven. It is not dead. It was never dead. It was under assault. There is a profound difference. Dead means it is over. Under assault means it was being fought over. And in a fight over the dreams of a chosen soul, heaven does not lose. Heaven has been defending that dream in the spiritual realm through every assault. Every attack the enemy leveled at it was met by a heavenly defense. Every strategy to bury it was countered. The dream survived because it was protected, because it was not just your dream. It was heaven's investment in a specific outcome that heaven intends to see fulfilled. And that outcome is being fulfilled. The dream is not coming back in a weakened form. It is not returning as a smaller version of what it was, diminished by all the years of assault and delay. It is returning in the fullness of what was originally intended. In some areas, it is returning even larger than the original vision because heaven added to it during the years of waiting. The years of formation added dimensions to the dream that the original dreamer was not yet ready to carry. The waiting was not just preservation, it was expansion. What you are about to walk into is bigger than what you initially dreamed, and you are finally big enough to hold it. There's a word Michael carries for the ones who have been serving faithfully in the hidden place, the ones whose contribution has been consistent and real, but whose recognition has been minimal or non-existent. The ones who have been doing the work, carrying the weight, showing up reliably, giving their best, not in the spotlight, but in the background where the work is often more essential and less celebrated. The ones who have served without the reward of being seen, who have given without the return of being valued in the ways that felt most needed, who have been faithful in small things for a long time while watching other people who seemed less faithful receive larger platforms and more visible rewards. Heaven has been watching you in the hidden place. Every day of your faithful, uncelebrated service has been recorded and valued and held with a reverence that the human audience who missed it could never have offered anyway. The faithfulness you poured out in the places where no one was applauding is the faithfulness that heaven values most. Because faithfulness without an audience is purer than faithfulness that is sustained by recognition. Because the service that continues when the reward is only God's pleasure is the service that reveals the true character of the servant. Your true character has been revealed in the hidden place. And Michael is declaring today that the hidden place season is ending. What was done in the secret is being brought into the light. The faithfulness that was practiced in private is being honored in public. The gifts that were given in the background are being moved to a place where they can reach the people who need them most. The voice that spoke in small rooms is being given a larger room, not because you demanded it, because heaven determined that the preparation was complete and the time for the expansion of your platform was now. Get ready to be seen, not in the way that pride demands to be seen. in the way that purpose requires being seen, in the way that makes the people who need what you carry able to find you, in the way that positions the gifts and the wisdom and the authority that heaven built in you to actually reach the lives they were built to reach. The expansion is happening. Michael is closing with a declaration over your identity. Because the most important thing you will take from this message is not information about what is coming in your circumstances. It is a settled, unshakable, heaven-confirmed understanding of who you are. Because who you are determines how you walk into everything that is coming. Who you are determines whether you receive the breakthrough fully or hold yourself back from it at the last moment. Who you are determines whether you step into the calling with confidence or hover at the threshold afraid to fully enter. So Michael declares over you today what heaven has confirmed about you. You are singular. There is no one else like you in all of creation. The specific combination of everything you are is unrepeatable. You are not a copy or a lesser version of someone better. You are the original of yourself, and the world has never seen your specific offering before and will never see it again. That is not arrogance. That is the fact of what it means to be uniquely and intentionally created by a God who does not mass-produce souls, but crafts each one with individual attention and singular purpose. You are astonishing. Heaven has watched your life with genuine astonishment, not at your perfection, but at your persistence, not at your strength, but at your refusal to let the hard things make you hard, not at your accomplishments, but at the quality of soul that survived everything that tried to diminish it and came through still tender, still open, still faithful, still carrying the things that were placed in you at the beginning. You are positioned. Everything in your story has been positioning you for what is coming next. Every detour was navigation. Every setback was setup. Every hard season was formation. Every loss was clearing. Every delay was preparation. You are standing right now in the position that all of it was leading to, not at the beginning of your story. At the threshold of the chapter that all the previous chapters were building toward. You are chosen, not because of what you have earned or produced or proven, because heaven looked at all the souls that existed and would exist, and for the specific assignment that needed to be fulfilled in this generation, at this time, through this particular life, heaven said your name, your specific name. And the choosing was permanent and irreversible and is as true today as it was at the beginning. And you are loved with the love that created you, with the love that designed you, with the love that has been present in every single moment of your life, including the ones where it felt most absent. The love that carried you through the fire without letting you be consumed by it. The love that defended your dreams when you were too exhausted to defend them yourself. The love that is present right now in this exact moment, reading these words into the soul that needs them most. That is who you are. Chosen, singular, astonishing, positioned, and loved beyond measure by the heaven that sent Michael today to make sure you knew it. Now go live from that truth. The world is waiting for everything heaven built in you, and so is heaven.